Substrate sterilization for oyster mushroom growing. The ultimate clean slate. Sterilization goes a step further than pasteurization. It uses higher temperatures and pressure to kill all microorganisms in the substrate, leaving a completely sterile environment. This is necessary for cultivating more delicate mushroom species or for achieving the absolute highest, most consistent yields. For oyster mushrooms on coffee husks, it is often overkill and expensive, but it's a valuable technology to understand for scaling up or for producing your own spawn. A pressure cooker or a professional autoclave. Autoclavable grow bags thicker, special polypropylene bags with a filter patch. Prepare and bag. Hydrate your substrate to the correct moisture level. Fill the autoclavable bags, leaving some room at the top. Fold the top over and secure with a special autoclave clip or tie. Load the cooker. Place the bags in the pressure cooker. Add the required amount of water according to your cooker's manual. Sterilize. Seal the cooker and bring it up to pressure 15 psi/121 degrees Celsius/250 degrees Fahrenheit. Once at pressure, maintain it for 2 to 2.5 hours. Cool down. Turn off the heat and let the pressure drop to zero naturally. Do not force cool it. Rapid depressurization can cause the bags to burst. Once the pressure is zero, you can open the cooker. The bags will be extremely hot. Let them cool completely inside the sterile cooker or transfer them to a clean room to cool. When to use sterilization. Spawn production, when you are making grain spawn to inoculate your larger substrate bags. Laboratory work, when working with agar cultures. Premium production, for a commercial operation aiming for zero contamination and maximum yield, where the investment in an autoclave is justified. Substrate bagging and inoculation, the sacred transfer. This is the moment of truth. You are introducing your champion, the mushroom mycelium, into its new home. The cleanliness of this process, known as aseptic technology, will determine whether your bags become white with life or green with mold. Spawn, high quality, pure oyster mushroom spawn. This can be grain spawn mycelium growing on sterilized grains like sorghum or millet or sawdust spawn. Grain spawn is more common and aggressive. Source it from a reputable supplier or learn to produce your own. Grow bags, clear polypropylene bags e.g. 6 kilograms or 12 kilograms capacity with a filter patch. The filter patch allows the bag to breathe exchange gases while keeping contaminants out. Sealing method. A bag sealer impulse sealer is best. For a low technology method, you can use strong wire ties or even tightly folded and tied plastic. Clean workspace. This is non-negotiable. The ideal space is a small clean room that you can spray down with a disinfectant. For small-scale work, a still airbox SAB is a game changer. This is simply a large, clear plastic tub with 2 armholes cut in the side. It creates a zone of still, clean air, drastically reducing the chance of airborne contaminants landing on your substrate. Prepare your space. Turn off fans and close windows to minimize air movement. Thoroughly clean and disinfect all surfaces: your table, your tools, your hands, and the outside of the substrate and spawn bags. A 10% bleach solution or 70% alcohol works well. Wear a face mask and gloves. Cool substrate. Double-check that your pasteurized or sterilized substrate is completely cool below 30 degrees Celsius/86 degrees Fahrenheit. Heat will kill your spawn. The transfer inside a SAB if possible. Place your cooled substrate bag, your spawn bag, and a clean scoop or container inside the still air box. Put your hands through the armholes. Open the substrate bag. If using a pasteurized sack, transfer the substrate into the sterile grow bag now. Open the spawn bag. Using your sterile hands or a flame tool, break up the grain spawn so it's not a single solid block. Inoculation rate. A good rate is 5 to 10% of the wet weight of the substrate. For a 10 kilograms wet substrate bag, use 500 g to 1 kilogram of grain spawn. More is faster, but more expensive. Less is slower and increases the risk of contamination. Gently mix the spawn throughout the substrate. Don't overmix. You want it distributed evenly. Seal the bag. Fold the top of the grow bag down tightly and seal it with the impulse sealer or tie it off securely with a wire tie, ensuring the filter patch is not obstructed. Label. Immediately label the bag with the date, the mushroom species e.g., oyster gray, and the batch number. Specific solutions and AMP. Tips. DIY still air box. A clear 50-liter storage box from a Kampala supermarket is perfect. Cut the armholes carefully and sand the edges smooth. Flame sterilization. If you don't have alcohol, you can sterilize a metal spoon or scoop by holding it in a flame from a gas stove or a spirit lamp until it glows red. Then let it cool inside the SAB before use. Sourcing spawn. Initially, you may need to import high-quality spawn. The long-term goal for a serious industry in Uganda is to establish local, high-quality spawn laboratories. The mycelial symphony. Guiding growth. With your bags inoculated, you are now a mycelium farmer. Your job is to provide the perfect conditions for it to colonize its new world, and then to signal to it that it's time to produce mushrooms. The dark room. Mycelium, like a baby in the womb, needs a period of undisturbed growth in a stable, protected environment. It needs warmth, darkness, and high CO2 to focus its energy on expanding through the substrate, not on producing mushrooms. This is a dedicated room or space that can be made completely dark with shelves or racks to store the bags off the floor. It should have a thermometer and a hygrometer to measure temperature and humidity. A small heater for cooler regions is optional. Choose a room you can close off completely. A spare bedroom, a storeroom, or a purpose-built small structure, even a well-sealed mud and wattle hut can work as ideal. Block out all light from windows and doors with thick curtains or black plastic sheets. Place the sealed bags on the shelves. Do not stack them directly on top of each other, as this restricts airflow and can cause overheating. Leave a small gap between bags. Manage the environment. The ideal incubation temperature for oyster mycelium is 24 to 28 degrees Celsius 75 to 82 degrees Fahrenheit. This is a very comfortable range for most of Uganda. If you are in a highland area like Kabale or Mbale that gets cool, you may need to use a small electric heater to maintain this temperature. If you are in a very hot area like Gulu or Karamoja, you may need to ensure the room doesn't get too hot above 30 degrees Celsius, as this can slow growth or kill the mycelium. Total darkness is key. Light can trigger premature pinning inside the bag, which you want to avoid. The sealed bags will naturally build up high levels of CO2 as the mycelium respirates. This is good during this stage. It encourages the mycelium to run through the substrate quickly. After doing all this, wait until colonization happens. Colonization time can vary from 10 days to 3 weeks, depending on the spawn rate, temperature, and substrate. Every few days, you can inspect the bags. You should see the white, fluffy mycelium growing outwards from the spawn points. Troubleshooting during incubation. If you see any color other than white, then that bag is contaminated. Remove it immediately and dispose of it far away from your incubation area, e.g., bury it deep in a compost pile. Do not open it inside, as it will release millions of spores. If the mycelium stops growing, it could be due to temperatures being too high or too low, or the substrate being too wet or too dry. A strong, sweet, or sour smell from a bag is a sign of bacterial contamination. Remove the bag. Once a bag is 90 to 100% colonized, meaning the entire block of substrate is solid white and firm, it is ready for the next stage, fruiting. Pinning, the magic moment. The mycelium has now fully consumed its food source. It is strong and consolidated. To trigger it to shift from vegetative growth colonizing to reproductive growth fruiting, you must introduce a radical change in its environment. This change shocks the mycelium and tells it its time is running out. It must produce mushrooms fruits to release spores and continue its lineage. Take the mushroom blocks into a fruiting room. In a fruiting room or a dedicated fruiting area, you need a sharp, clean knife or razor blade. A source of light, even indirect sunlight, or a simple LED bulb, and a means of providing fresh air. Initiate fruiting. Take your fully colonized bags from the dark incubation room to your fruiting area. Introduce the following pinning or fruiting triggers. Light. Expose the bags to light. This doesn't need to be intense. 12 hours of light and 12 hours of darkness is a good cycle. A low-wattage cool white LED bulb or even placement near a window with indirect sunlight is perfect. The light tells the mycelium where up is. Fresh air exchange FA. This is the most critical trigger. High CO2 levels told the mycelium to stay vegetative. Low CO2 fresh air tells it to fruit. Simply opening the windows in your fruiting room or fanning the bags several times a day is a great start. High humidity. While you introduce fresh air, you need to maintain high humidity 80 to 95%. Mist the walls and floor of the room with water. You can also mist the bags themselves, but avoid pooling water on the substrate surface. Temperature drop. This is optional, but helpful. A slight drop in temperature of 5 to 10 degrees Celsius, e.g., from 27 degrees Celsius to 22 degrees Celsius, can be a very effective pinning trigger. In many parts of Uganda, the natural drop in temperature at night is sufficient. After 24 to 48 hours of these new conditions, use a clean knife to make cuts in the bag where you want the mushrooms to grow. You can make one long X or several 2 to 3 centimeter slits along the sides of the bag. This exposes the mycelium to the fresh air and humidity, forcing it to pin at these specific points. Within 3 to 7 days of cutting the bag, you should see the formation of pins. These are tiny baby mushrooms that look like miniature fingernails or pinheads. This is the most exciting stage. A good pin set will have many healthy, tightly clustered pins forming at each cut site. Fruiting and cultivation. Nurturing the harvest. When the pins have arrived, your job is to provide the perfect environment for them to develop into full-sized, beautiful mushrooms. This stage is a delicate balance of water, air, and humidity. You need to have a clean spray bottle with fine mist, a hygrometer, and a small fan for air circulation is optional, all aimed at managing the fruiting environment. How to do watering misting. Mist the air and the walls of the fruiting room, not directly onto the developing mushrooms, especially the pins. Direct spraying can damage the delicate pins and cause bacterial blotches. You want to create a humid environment, not soak the mushrooms. Mist 2 to 4 times a day, or whenever the mushroom caps start to look dry or cracked. The goal is to keep the humidity high. Use clean, non-chlorinated water if possible. Rainwater or water that has been left to sit out for 24 hours is ideal. Maintain 80 to 95% relative humidity. 4 low-technology methods. Keep the floor of the fruiting room wet. Place trays of water in the room. Hang wet towels. Misting is your primary tool. 4 high-technology methods. Ultrasonic humidifiers connected to a humidistatic controller that turns the humidifier on and off can automate this process for larger operations. Oxygen and fresh air exchange are crucial. As the mushrooms grow, they exhale CO2, just like we do. If CO2 levels build up, the mushrooms will develop long, stringy stems and small, underdeveloped caps. They are essentially reaching for fresh air. This is achieved through a constant balancing act with humidity. You need to exchange the air without letting the room dry out. For small-scale mushroom growing, open a window or door and fan the room with a board or a fan for 1 to 2 minutes, 4 to 6 times per day. For medium-scale mushroom growing, install a small exhaust fan on a timer to run for a few minutes every hour. The telltale sign: look at the mushroom stems. If they are long and skinny, you need more FA. If the caps are full and the stems are shorter, you're doing well. Temperature. The ideal fruiting temperature for most oyster varieties is 18 to 24 degrees Celsius, 65 to 75 degrees Fahrenheit. This is often easily achieved in the Ugandan highlands. In hotter lowland areas, you may need to cool the room, perhaps by evaporative cooling wetting walls and floors or by fruiting during the cooler parts of the day. The daily routine. Your daily routine during fruiting is simple but vital. Check your mushrooms, check humidity, mist if needed, and provide fresh air. You are now a full-time mushroom parent.